Okay, so this is going to be a video of study guide for Module 10. Since we can't meet and go over the answers together, I want to make sure you can go through and make sure you have the right answers. If you miss anything I say, let me know and I can get you that. So I'm just gonna go through. I am actually not gonna read all the questions. I want you to read the questions as you go through this. But my voice is going to give out if I try to read all the questions. Can you tell? Okay, hopefully you can hear me over the piano. But hey, they're practicing, so now, actually, I'll read the questions. Number 2, what major geological event caused the formation of most of the world's estuaries? The melting of large masses of ice after an ice age. Name at least one piece of evidence for the existence of at least one ice age in the Earth's history. So there's 3 types of evidence: glacial deposits, large boulders that were clearly transported from to their current location, and geological features such as deep lakes. Number 4, what is the main difference between uniformitarian view and catastrophist view when it comes to the ice age? Uniformitarian think that there were several ice ages that occurred throughout history. Catastrophists believe that there was one and it came on very quickly and bigly, maybe brought on by, a flood. Number 5, what conditions are necessary to form a glacier? Winters that are not too cold, because if they're too cold, the air won't hold enough moisture. But they also do need to be snowy. So snowy winters that are not too cold and cooler summers so not all the ice melts. Number 6, what is the most common type of estuary? A drowned river valley. Number 7, of the 5 types of estuaries, which has water most similar to coastal waters that are not part of estuaries? Fjords have water that is most similar to non-estuary coastal waters. Number 8, name 3 abiotic factors of a shallow estuary. So, fluctuating salinity due to evaporation plus the mixing of fresh water and salty ocean water. So, the salinity could change as things evaporate, water evaporates. Also, depending on how much fresh water and salt water you have mixing. So, fluctuating salinity, shallow water would result in higher temperatures. Suspended sediments will make the water less clear. A sessile organism is living at a given point on a substrate of an estuary. At which tide, high or low, does the organism experience the highest salinity? High tide. Number 10, suppose an organism in number 9, the sessile organism, is a tall seagrass and therefore spans a range of depths. As a snail crawls up the seagrass, does it experience an increase or decrease in salinity? A decrease, which makes sense, right? Okay, 11. In an estuary, a stenohaline saltwater organism can survive further inland than on one side of the river, along one side of the river than the other. Why? The gyres in the ocean bend the outward flow of a river in one direction, enabling marine organisms to live farther upriver on the opposite side. Number 12. If the organism in question 11 can live further inland on the left side of the river as you float on the ocean and look back to the coast, is this estuary in the northern or southern hemisphere? Northern. 13. In general, is the substrate of an estuary sandy or muddy? Muddy. 14. An organism is able to live in all areas of an estuary. Is it Urulene, Stenohaline, or brackish water species? It is a Urulene because it can tolerate a wide range of salinities. 15. Which kind of organisms are most prevalent in estuary? Osmoconformers or osmoregulators? Osmoregulators. If an organism cannot 16. If an organism cannot tolerate strong changes in salinity, how can it manage to stay in a single location near the middle of an estuary over a long period of time? The middle of an estuary has strong changes in salinity, so creatures must be able to reduce exposure to the water. So bivalves do this by shutting down. So if you're a bivalve, you could just kind of shut up. Shut off, like close up. There you go. Others might burrow into the substrate. 17. Suppose you are looking for the center of an estuary, but you do not have a map. What type of species, Urulene, Stenohaline, or brackish water, would you look for to indicate the center? Brackish water would find the center because they are a mix of saltwater and freshwater. Okay, 18. A scientist to sustain a wetland in a temperature area of the world. Is it most likely a salt marsh or a mangrove forest? Salt marsh. 19. Name 3 types of mangrove trees and a special feature of each. Red mangrove has prop roots to support the plant up out of the water and is therefore tolerant of high salinities. Black mangroves have pneumatophores that grow out of the soil for more exposure to oxygen, but is less tolerant of high salinities than the red mangroves. The white mangroves have 2 salt glands at the base of its leaves to excrete excess salts and is the least tolerant of high salinities. 20. Sorry. You are traveling through a mangrove forest. If you start at low elevations and travel so that your elevation increases, what is the order in which you will encounter the 3 types of mangrove trees? So the lower the elevation, the higher the salinity. So you'll find mangroves first, then black mangroves, and then white mangroves. 21. What kind of grass is salt marsh? Cord grass. 22. Mudflats can support a few flowering plants and some eelgrass and turtle grass, which provides some primary protection to the ecosystem. But what are the major primary producers? Diatoms, other photosynthesizing plankton, and bacteria. 23. When looking at an estuarine mudflat, there seems to be little life. Is this so? There's plenty of life in an estuarine mudflat. The primary producers are microscopic and are buried in this muddy sediment. 24. Why are deposit feeders more common than filter feeders? Suspended sediments in the water clog the filtering organs. But there's plenty of deposits for deposit feeders. That makes sense. So yeah. If you're filter feeding and you have too much sediment, then you can't filter feed. Okay. Are mudflat predators, we're on 25. Are mudflat predators more prevalent at high tide or low tide? They're equal in both. 26. In some large mudflats, up to 11,000 shorebirds can move in at one time to feed. Why is the population and fauna living there not decimated? The large populations of fauna, combined with the varying depths at which they are buried, keep the birds, with varying bill lengths depending on species, from overfeeding. 27. Compared to other ecosystems, do estuaries have a large number of species? Estuaries do not have a large number of species, but they have a large number of organisms living there. So just not as much variety. 28. In an estuary, where do you most likely to find juvenile fish? You tend to find them in the channels because that is the port. 28. You tend to find them in the channels because that's the portion always covered by water. The food is plentiful and there is good protection from predators there. You could also say within the shelter of red mangrove roots in tropical estuaries.